When is Skynet?
I don't know.
Does Charlie know?
Always 9 p.m. Saturday on 146.88. Duh.
This is the W5FC repeater, PL110.9.
Everyone, this is Virginia in V5F, and I will be your net control for Skynet in a couple of minutes. So if you need to use the repeater before the net begins, please do so now. This is in V5F.
Afterglow Movie Net, Saturday, 10:30 p.m., W5FC.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Good evening. The time is 9 p.m. Good evening, everyone. This is NV5F. My name is Virginia, and I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the # break and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic at this time? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me. And stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmission. This weekly net operates on 146.88 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FD-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics: astronomy charts, Pictures and live audio and video links are available online. Go to www.w5sc.org right now for the complete list. And remember to tell others about this popular net. If you go to the w5sc.org, you will find a link from tonight's topic to our YouTube simulcast done by Tom, K5ICX, and that's where you can see all the graphics that are associated with the topics for this evening. You can now check into the net electronically by going to the club website, same place, w5sc.org, and look for tonight's announcement and click on the hot link to check in. We will acknowledge you on the air, and don't worry, if you want to check in via voice, we will continue to do that too, over the air and on Echo Link. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. This net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. We have general announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, National Space Society events, recent astronomical discoveries, discussion topic of the evening, and what's up, how to look at the daytime and nighttime sky, space exploration and space history, constellations of the week, space launches of the week, visible satellite passages over the next couple days, and any Q&A, astronomical Q&A or 73 round if time permits. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. We currently have the following people checked in at the w5sc.org website. So far, we have K5MCD Cody in Dallas. We have K5ICX Tom in Corpus Christi. He's checking in via All-Star Link. We have W5BLT Bill in Garland. We have N5LIG Dale in Little Elm. We have KF5JHA Chaz and Bob the Cat, Milky Way Galaxy Solar System. We have WB5OZL Brenda in Dallas. We have KI5PGM Travis in McKinney. We have AG9SG Antonio in Dallas. And NT5TM Tony in Bird City. We have AG5PM Rich in Rockwall. So far a lot on the electronic check-in. Thank you very much for using that. It helps a lot. Now let's start in with voice check-ins, starting with short-time check-ins. Short-time check-ins only. Please come now with your call sign name and where you're transmitting from this evening. Okay, nothing heard for short timers. Now we'll go to round two, which is general check-ins. Please come now with your name and your call sign and where you are located. Or call sign name and where you're located.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Uniform Foxtrot Romeo, Jacob and Farmers Branch.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu Bravo Lima, Bill, also from Trench.
Zulu Echo 5, Echo Member Eric, not at Farmers Branch, but in Plano.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, Carrollton, just north of Farmers Branch.
This is Whiskey 5, Golf Uniform Sierra, Gus,
Far, far northeast Dallas.
Alrighty, so far I've got KG5UFR, Jacob in Farmers Branch, KF5ZBL, Bill, also in Farmers Branch, KE5EN, Eric in Plano, and we've got KG5, Whiskey Victor Lima. In Carrollton, I did not get your name. The repeater kind of dropped out on me when you called your name, so give me your name, please.
This is KG5WBL. Name is James.
Okay, thank you, James. I appreciate that. And then after that, we had W5GUS, Gus in Dallas. So thanks, everybody, for checking in on the voice check-in. Now we're going to go for Echolink check-ins. Is there anyone on Echolink who would like to check in at this time? Call sign, name, and your location.
Is Kilo X-ray 7, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, Sean, Denton.
Okay, I've got KX7WTF, and I missed your name and your location. Could you give me that again, please?
Name is Sean from Denton.
Okay, thank you, Sean. I appreciate that. Okay, so we got one new check-in from Echolink. Let's see. And now, free-for-all. Anybody, anywhere, please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location. Okay, nothing good, but we'll ask for more check-ins later, so let's get started. General announcements. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be ham, astronomical, space, or general interest to licensed ham. Please come now with your announcements.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
Okay, Tony, come now with your announcements.
Well, time is marching on. I can't believe it's not New Year's Day. Happy New Year, everybody. I'm glad it was pretty warm this afternoon. We have several things coming up. First off, we have the Afterglow movie discussion. Tonight we'll be talking about The Doomsday Machine from 1976. That's tonight at 10:30, 10:35, kind of plus or minus 5 minutes. Listen up, stay aware, and if you watch this movie, which I didn't, I'm sorry, please share your thoughts. This Monday is the second Monday of the month. That means it's time for MCOM 101. You don't have to be a member of ARES or RACES or CERT or MRC or any group. If you have an interest in public service communications, I hope you can join us here this Monday at 7. We all trade our favorite tips and stories and we're all a beginner at something. How do I get my radio signal to get out of this bus? The bus doesn't even have any windows. Join us here this Monday at 7 for the answer to that question and many more. So while I'm partial to MCOM 101, I'm also really in love with Winter Field Day. Summer Field Day is about how can you avoid heat stroke. Winter Field Day is about how you can make a lot of contacts and have fun because we don't have to worry about dying at all. There's just no threat to our lives on Winter Field Day. So the Dallas Amateur Radio Club will be operating on the 25th of this month at the Johnson Outpost YMCA. The White Rock Lake Amateur Radio Club, our partner in crime, will be operating on the 26th of this month, that's Sunday, at Dreyfus Point at White Rock Lake. The exact times and what kind of food will be available are still to be determined. Bring your enthusiasm, bring your antenna, bring your computer, bring your laptop. I don't know, bring your pair of pliers and your hockey stick, whatever works. There's going to be radios, there's going to be antennas. We're going to have fun. I'll be at both events. I hope you will too. Check w5fc.org for more information about the 25th and wa5wrl.org for more information about the 26th. So, it's a fine day. Let's all go have fun. NT5TM, back to net.
Okay, Tony, thanks so much, and looking forward to Winter Field Day. I hope the weather is not too cold for us. Alrighty. This is Virginia, NV5F. I'm net control for Skynet this evening. And let's talk about AMSAT. The Amateur Radio Satellite Group has 3 nets available to Dallas residents. One is Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. on this repeater. It's 146.88, PL tone 110.9. And we also have a there is also a Tuesday evening net available, the National AMSAT net, where you can learn all about amateur radio satellites and how you can use them on amateur radio. And this national net brings most up-to-date information on amateur radio satellites in use. The new one's coming online. You can find this on Echolink, and if you go to groups and look up AMSAT, there's also a live audio link available at www.net.com. This originates from Houston, Texas. The local net, like I said, the first one's on Tuesday night here on this repeater. It's the AMSAT Net East, and it's every Tuesday at 8 p.m. except for the first Tuesday of the month, which is club meeting night. So come here at 8 o'clock every Tuesday to hear all about amateur radio in space. And the Dallas AMSAT Net West is every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. on the Arlington ARC repeater, 147.14 megahertz PL tone 110.9 also. The DARC hosts a lot of nets on this repeater, so check the w5fc.org website. That's the best way to know all the nets. I will speak briefly about them since there are so many. Every Monday night at 7 p.m. there is some kind of net. Tony just mentioned the MCOM net, MCOM 101, second Monday. That's for anybody interested in learning emergency communication. Let's see. And other Mondays, we've got other nets. If there's a 5th Monday, we have a surprise net. We've got ham fixins. I believe it's 1st and 3rd Mondays. We have Sunday night meeting on the air, some Sundays. And on Saturday, we have the Night of Nets. And that starts with TechNet from 7 to 8. Skynet from 9 to 10:30. Afterglow Movie Net is 10:30 to midnight. That'll be right after this net. Will it be a hit or a dreaded miss? If you're just insomniac after this net, please come and join us later on Afterglow. daily, we have the ARRL National Traffic System Training Net. That's at 6 p.m. on this repeater. If you want to learn about handling traffic, just come and listen. You're always welcome to check in, even if you don't have any traffic. And if you want to join in the fun with learning how to handle traffic, then talk to one of the net controls, and they'll get you started. We also have a National Traffic System Net on the Irving repeater every evening at 9:30. The WA5 DKF repeater at 146.72 megahertz, and that's the late net. And I just mentioned Afterglow. So let's see if Tom, KE5ICX, is available for tonight's Afterglow info. Take it away, Tom.
Why, thank you, Virginia, and this is KE5ICX. I'm in Corpus Christi now. Here it is, tonight's Afterglow info. Write this down, there might be a test. The Chinese were very clever. They'd created a doomsday device at a fraction of the cost of an American version. They were pretty much identical, except the Chinese one was painted eggshell white, a more crowd-pleasing color than the garish military green, more favored by the U.S. military-industrial complex home appliance division. Of course, there were no safety features on the Chinese device, and it was obvious from the pull ring on the Chinese version that Chairman Mao's kid, Doofus, thought the bomb was just a nice talking toy his dad had got him while visiting North Korea. Of course, the device was sitting on Mao's dining room table. Doofus pulled the ring and watched as it slowly retracted, counting down in Chinese to 0. The entire Earth disintegrated. Fortunately, the Americans anticipated this and sent a spaceship into space with the usual questionable astronauts recruited to populate the planet Venus, with what was left of the human race. The astronauts included Russians, Americans, and some gals from a local escort service. Something was rotten on board the spaceship Astra. A few minutes later, 2 of the male astronauts could be seen floating out an airlock, minus their spacesuits. Things were getting more interesting than anticipated. Join us for this production-plagued but finally released film, The Doomsday Machine, which was released in 1976, tonight at 10:30 p.m. Back to you, Virginia, KE5ICX.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Doomsday Machine sounds like a winner. You can keep up with all DARC events, nets, and activities by going to the club website, w5sc.org. And let's see if we have any more people checked in via w5sc.org. And it looks like we have added N5OF Clay in Mesquite. So thank you, Clay, for checking in via the website. Appreciate that. And now I will take additional voice check-ins. Anyone, anywhere, please come now.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo. Bill and Irving. KJ5GNF, Brian and Terrell.
Alrighty, we've added N5TV, Bill and Irving, and KJ5GNF, Brian and Carol. Thanks for checking in. Now it's time for Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events. When and where and when you can look through a telescope. This is Chaz, KF5JHA.
Thank you, Virginia. Good evening, everyone. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. January 24th. Yep, that'll be the next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting. The meeting will be held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas, and also held on Zoom. The featured speaker is going to be task member Max Cornell. His topic is going to be orbital light pollution. Have I gotten some pictures that include orbital light pollution? It's going to be an interesting topic. Saturday night public observing sessions continue. Skynet was picked to be on Saturday night so that there could be an opportunity for live reports from the task public observing sessions. Now, on the second Saturday of the month, that would be tonight, the stargazing is held in Frisco. Is there anyone, do we have a ham, a radio operator, at the stargazing that would like to make a report? Come now with your call sign if there is someone. We have 4 planets you can see in the evening sky, plus the moon. Oh, Jupiter and the moon were close together last night. There's a lot of things that could be seen in the evening sky. M42, the Orion Nebula. Oh, there's a lot of things up there. We'll talk about some of those during the Constellation of the Week. So you can check the TASS website, texasastro.org, for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. And this is KF5JHA, back to our net control, Virginia. That would be NV5F. It's yours.
Okay, thanks so much, Chaz. Appreciate the announcements about Texas Astronomical Society. And next we have the National Space Society events and activities with Bill N5BB. Let us know what's going on.
Thank you, Virginia. This is N5BB. Hold on one moment, please. Okay. I am the Vice President of the National Space Society North Texas Chapter and the Membership Director. You can reach me at space@byrom.net. That's SPACE@BYROM.net. The National Space Society is a nonprofit group based in the U.S. which is interested in the exploration and development of space and the creation of a spacefaring civilization. The big event each year for the National Space Society is the International Space Development Forum, ISDC. The next ISDC will be held in Orlando, Florida, on June the 19th, 22nd, 2025. If you are a member of the International Space Society and you sign up early for ISDC, you get a significant discount. So again, the big event will be in Orlando, Florida, ISDC, June the 19th to 22nd of 2025. The local North Texas chapter of the National Space Society meets at 3:30 p.m. on the second Sunday afternoon of each month. The meeting location is Spring Creek Barbecue on the southwest corner of Highway 183 and Beltline Road in Irving. The next meeting will be held on Sunday afternoon, January the 12th. That is tomorrow afternoon. Our speaker will be Ken Ruffin, who will make a presentation about the state of human space activities at the start of 2025. Our meetings are also available virtually using WebEx. Please contact me at Bill Byram N5BB if you'd like to attend online. On the last Friday evening of each month, from 6 to 8 p.m., the National Space Society North Texas Chapter sponsors a social event called Space Rendezvous. The location is Cheddar's Restaurant, 700 West Highway 635 in Irving. Anyone is welcome to attend and discuss human activities in space with us. No membership in any group is required. Our last such event was on December the 27th, and we had 9 attendees. The next Space Rendezvous event will be held on Friday, January 31st. It's always the last Friday of the month. Our local National Space Society chapter website is ntx.nss.org. Our group also has an active Facebook page. Just type National Space Society of North Texas into the search box. If you have any questions about the National Space Society, or if you want to attend one of our meetings virtually, such as the meeting tomorrow afternoon, please contact Bill Byram, N5BB, that's November 5 Bravo Bravo, at my QRZ listed address, my email address on QRZ, or space@byram.net. Thank you very much, Virginia. This is N5BB clear.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Appreciate the announcement. This is Virginia in the 5F, net control for Skynet. And our next one is recent astronomical discoveries. And this is Brenda, WB5OZL. Tell us what's going on with Jupiter.
Node 48902. Timeout.
Virginia. This is WB5OZL. The title of this article is Citizen Science Reveals that Jupiter's colorful clouds are not made of ammonia ice. Collaborative work by amateur and professional astronomers has helped to resolve a long-standing misunderstanding about the composition of Jupiter's clouds. Instead of being formed of ammonia ice, the conventional view, it now appears they're likely to be composed of ammonium hydrosulfide mixed with smog. The findings have been published in the Journal of Geophysical Research, Planets. The new discovery was triggered by amateur astronomer Dr. Stephen Hill, based in Colorado. Jupiter's atmosphere could be mapped using commercially available telescopes and a few specially colored filters. Remarkably, these initial results not only showed that the abundance of ammonia in Jupiter's atmosphere could be mapped by amateur astronomers, they also showed that the clouds reside too deeply within Jupiter's warm atmosphere to be consistent with the clouds of ammonia ice. In this new study, Professor Patrick Irwin from the University of Oxford's Department of Physics applied Dr. Stephen Hill's analytical method to observations of Jupiter made with a multi-unit spectroscopic explorer, MUSE, instrument at the European Southern Observatory's Very Large Telescope, VLT, in Chile. MUSE uses the power of spectroscopy where Jupiter's gases create telltale fingerprints and visible light at different wavelengths to map the ammonia and cloud heights in the gas giant's atmosphere. By simulating how the light interacts with the gases and clouds in a computer model, Professor Irwin and his team found the primary clouds of Jupiter, the ones we can see when looking through backyard telescopes, had to be much deeper than previously thought, in a region of higher pressure and higher temperature. Too warm, in fact, for the condensation of ammonia. Instead, these clouds had to be made of something different, ammonium hydrosulfide. Previous analyses of MUSE observations had hinted at a similar result. However, since these analyses were made with sophisticated, extremely complex methods that can only be conducted by a few groups around the world, this result was difficult to corroborate. In this new work, Irwin's team found that Dr. Hill's method of simply comparing the brightnesses in adjacent narrow-colored filters gave the identical results. And since this new method is much faster and very simple, it is far easier to justify. Stand by while I reset, please. am back. Let's see. And since this new method is much faster and very simple, it is far easier to verify. Hence, the team concludes that the clouds of Jupiter really are at deeper pressures than the expected ammonia clouds at 700 NB and so cannot be composed of pure ammonia ice. Professor Irwin said, "I am astonished that such a simple method is able to probe so deep in the atmosphere and demonstrate so clearly that the main clouds cannot be pure ammonia ice. These results show that an innovative amateur using a modern camera and special filters can open a new window on Jupiter's atmosphere and contribute to understanding the nature of Jupiter's long, mysterious clouds and how the atmosphere circulates." Dr. Stephen Hill, who has a PhD in astrophysics from the University of Colorado and works in space weather forecasting, said, "I always like to push my observations to see what physical measurements I can make with modest commercial equipment. The hope is that I can find new ways for amateurs to make useful contributions to professional work, but I certainly did not expect an outcome as productive as this project has been. The ammonia maps resulting from this simple analytical technique can be determined at a fraction of the computational cost of more sophisticated methods. They could be used by citizen scientists to track ammonia and cloud top pressure variations across features in Jupiter's atmosphere, including Jupiter's bands, small storms, and large vortices like the Great Red Spot." John Rogers, of the British Astronomical Association, one of the study's co-authors, adds, "A special advantage of this technique is that it could be used frequently by amateurs to link visible weather changes on Jupiter to ammonia variations, which could be important ingredients in the weather." So what does an ammonia condense to form a thick cloud? Photochemistry, chemical reactions induced by sunlight, is very active in Jupiter's atmosphere. Professor Irwin and his colleagues suggest that in regions where moist ammonia-rich air is raised upwards, the ammonia is destroyed and are mixed with photochemical products faster than ammonia ice can form. Thus, the main cloud deck may actually be composed of ammonium hydrosulfide mixed with photochemical smoggy products, which produce the red and brown colors seen in Jupiter images. In small regions where convection is especially strong, the updrafts may be fast enough to form fresh ammonia ice, and such regions have occasionally been seen by spacecraft such as NASA's Galileo and more recently by NASA's Juno, where a few small, high, white clouds have been seen casting their shadows down on the main cloud deck below. Professor Irwin and his team also applied the method to be able to stand by. The VLT MUSE observations of Saturn have found similar agreement in the derived ammonia maps with other studies, including one determined from James Webb Space Telescope observations. Similarly, they have found the main level of reflection to be well below the expected ammonia condensation level, suggesting that similar photochemical processes are occurring in Saturn's atmosphere. This is from ScienceDaily.com. That's the end. WB5OZL, back to net.
Okay, thank you, Brenda. This is NB5F, Virginia, and that was good. The Echolink is working for you tonight. And next is my discussion topic of the evening. Since I'm net control, it falls to me to pick an exciting topic, and I'm going to go with a favorite theme of mine and tie it together with some other favorite things. So tonight we'll check out one of my favorite topics. I have spoken before about the Arecibo Observatory in Puerto Rico. This same radio telescope may have gone out of commission in 2020, but its legacy will live on in science and popular culture. The massive dish built into a mountaintop on a Caribbean island has been featured in favorite films, including one of our favorites, Contact. And in keeping with one of my other favorite topics, Arecibo was near clearly featured in the opening of 2010, the year we made contact. Arecibo was in the opening scene of Arthur C. Clarke's novel, 2010 Odyssey 2. However, upon visiting the facility in 1983, director Peter Hyams found it, let's just say, not up to aesthetic standards and in a state of disrepair, which would not have made for a very pretty scene. So the decision was made to open 2010 at one of our other favorite places, the VLA in New Mexico. So here, in the wake of 2010's 40th anniversary, and with all due respect, here is a well-deserved salute to Arecibo. Arecibo Observatory, The Rise, Legacy, and Tragic Collapse of a Giant. This is an article by Vicki Stein from Space News, www.space.com rather, not Space News, just space.com. And it's an article by Vicki Stein with contributions from Daisy Dobrejevic. That sounds Czech. All right, here we go. The legacy of Arecibo's nearly 60 years of astronomy research is strong, even after its loss in a dramatic 2020 collapse. Arecibo Observatory, located in Puerto Rico, was the world's second largest single-dish radio telescope until its sudden collapse on December 1st, 2020. Despite widespread support from the astronomy community for a replacement facility, the National Science Foundation announced in 2022 that it would not rebuild the iconic telescope. The Arecibo telescope was both scientifically revolutionary and visually stunning, with a large platform suspended high above the massive dish, nestled in a tropical rainforest. Over its 57 years of operation, Arecibo contributed an astonishing body of research, including work that led to 2 Nobel Prizes. It is perhaps most famous for transmitting the landmark 1974 SETI message aimed at globular cluster M13 in an attempt to reach extraterrestrial life. Besides its scientific work, Arecibo also left a mark on pop culture, serving as the setting for the climactic fight in GoldenEye, a 1995 James Bond film starring Pierce Brosnan. It also featured In Contact, a 1997 film based on a novel by Carl Sagan and starring Jodie Foster. Arecibo's history of challenges. In February 2018, the NSF, Arecibo's primary funding source, since the 1970s, announced it would reduce its annual contribution from $8 to $2 million over 5 years. In April 2018, the University of Central Florida in Orlando assumed management, but the facility faced escalating challenges, including damage from Hurricane Maria in 2017 and critical cable failures in 2020. Ultimately, NSF deemed the structure beyond repair, leading to its decommissioning just weeks before its collapse on December 1st, 2020. The first function of Arecibo was supposed to be studying the ionosphere, a region of the upper atmosphere that is important to understand to properly transmit radio signals. According to an NSF fact sheet, the Advanced Research Projects Agency, today's DARPA, was interested in this region to advance ballistic attracted military funding from the Office of Naval Research and the U.S. Air Force, as the Space Force had not yet been created at this point. The Air Force managed telescope was dedicated in 1963 and hailed as the world's largest radio telescope, but in a few short years it was already facing funding issues as ARPA's research budget diminished. The NSF agreed to become Arecibo's caretaker in 1967, and the research transferred to the civilian sector and astronomy. NASA came on board in 1971 through a cost-sharing agreement with NSF, allowing for the dish reflector to be resurfaced and for more radar equipment to be added. The partners brought in a new dome, and a second line of ionospheric radar in 1997. In these decades, NSF wrote, Arecibo became a powerful tool for scientific research focused on ionospheric physics, radio and radio astronomy, and aeronomy. When the telescope concluded its work, Arecibo was part of the National Astronomy and Ionosphere Center. The National Science Foundation had a cooperative agreement with the three entities that operated Arecibo: SRI International, the University Space Research Association, and Puerto Rico's Metropolitan University. The reflective dish was 1,000 feet or 305 meters in diameter, 167 feet or 51 meters deep, and covers an area of about 20 acres or 81,000 square meters. A triangular platform was suspended 450 feet or 137 meters above the dish by three concrete towers. The platform held the azimuth arm, a dome containing two subreflectors, and a set of antennae that could be tuned to a narrow band of frequencies. Arecibo was the largest radio telescope until July 2016, when China finished the 500-meter aperture spherical telescope FAST giant dish. That dish, the size of 30 football fields, is 1,650 feet or 503 meters wide. Next is Arecibo's scientific contributions across the decades. Key discoveries of Arecibo during its lifetime included, according to NSF, 1967, it identified Mercury's rotation was 59 days and not 88 days as previously believed. 1974, a Nobel Prize-winning discovery for finding the first ever binary pulsar. This was awarded to Russell A. Hulse and Joseph H. Taylor in 1993. 1975, it performed radar observations of Mars to support the Viking mission. In 1981, it made the first ever radar maps of Venus. In 1992, it found the first ever exoplanet system at pulsar PSR B1257+12. In 1994, it mapped water ice on the surface of Mercury. In 1996, it found ionized helium in Earth's atmosphere. In 2006, it studied heat transfer in Earth's ionosphere. In 2008, it found building blocks of amino acids, methionine, and hydrogen cyanide in a galaxy 250 million light. In 2016, it discovered the first known repeating fast radar burst. In 2017, it discovered at least two pulsars that appeared and vanished periodically, contradicting previous research suggesting that they perished. Arecibo's legacy spans diverse fields: planetary science, astronomy, and atmospheric studies. Its radar system made pivotal discoveries, and the challenges, and it has come into the challenges of communicating with aliens, although it's unlikely that this short inquiry will ever prompt a reply. Us to think a bit about the difficulties of communicating across space, time, and a presumably wide culture gap, SETI wrote on its website. Arecibo also supported asteroid monitoring, radar mapping of planets like Venus, and analysis of Earth's ionosphere. Arecibo broadcast its most famous message in 1974, a pictorial radio signal aimed at M13, which is approximately 21,000 light years away. According to SETI, the broadcast is roughly the same as a 20 trillion watt omnidirectional broadcast. In simple terms, the broadcast would be visible by just about any receiver in the galaxy that is about the same size as the antenna at Arecibo. We translated the radio frequency message into a warbling audio tone that was broadcast over speakers at the ceremony. When the tone started, much of the audience spontaneously got up and walked out of the tent and gazed up at the telescope, called past Arecibo director Harold Kraft in a 1999 Cornell University press release marking the 25th anniversary. In the decades following, SETI has trumpeted the message as a significant step to helping understand let's see, I'm missing some text here. Helping understand, I guess, just the nature of communicating to very far away places. Sorry about that. SETI's use in tracking asteroids and exoplanets. Arecibo is frequently used for finding asteroids that swung close to Earth. The observatory focused on those that could pose a danger to the planet, making an effort to accurately measure their sizes and gauge the potential impacts they could have. To be sure, there are no immediate threats, but scientists keep searching just in case. In 2013, for example, the observatory watched the arrival of asteroid 2012-GA14, which passed within 17,200 miles or 27,000 kilometers of Earth. It was a close flyby, but NASA emphasized the asteroid passed by at a safety. Besides asteroid research, Arecibo was also the site of the Planetary Habitability Laboratory at the University of Puerto Rico at Arecibo. The group has a habitable planets catalog that tracks the number of alien worlds and other solar systems that could be in the Goldilocks zone, or area that is not too hot or not too cold for life, or of their respective stars. Arecibo's decommission and collapse. On August 10th, 2020, one of the massive cables supporting the Arecibo Observatory radio telescope science platform failed, leaving a 100-foot gash in the radio dish below. Although at the time scientists were optimistic about potential repairs, on November 6, 2020, another cable snapped, leaving the towers and platform too unstable to repair. That was when, on November 19, 2020, the NSF declared the observatory a loss. Researchers mourned the end of the iconic structure, especially Puerto Rican astronomers. One Puerto Rican scientist, Emily Alicia Munoz, said that it was a point of pride for the island. We may be a tiny little island in the middle of the Caribbean, she said, but we can do big science. Experts like Raquel Velho say the loss of the observatory, given the recent lack of funding for scientific infrastructure. A new inquiry was launched into the matter in February 2022 to determine what other factors, if any, created the sudden fall. While scientists remained hopeful that a new observatory would be constructed, the NSF announced in October 2022 that the funding was not available to make that happen, although they do plan to put an educational institution on the famed site. We were worried that it could be even worse than this, that they might say, okay, just close down everything. Abel Mendez, an astronomer at the University of Puerto Rico at Arecibo, who used the telescope in his research and teaching, told Space.com. When the news was announced, but my particular hopes were higher. Arecibo's legacy, while always be accessible through an archive and will allow scientists to make discoveries indefinitely. The telescope collected 57 years of data on pulsars, asteroids, galaxies, planets, and many more interesting objects around the solar system and universe at large. The impact of Arecibo's loss was felt around the globe, and not just by researchers, since the observatory became potently symbolic, almost sacred to those who were touched by the facility, according to science writer Nadia Drake. Drake's family had been involved with Arecibo research for decades, particularly through her father Frank's work with Project OSMA. In 2021, in a 2021 presentation at the 52nd Lunar and Planetary Science Conference, presenters wrote that Arecibo left an indelible mark on planetary science, radio astronomy, and space and atmospheric sciences, and they expressed the sorrow surrounding its collapse in a wistful haiku. 6 decades service, Arecibo's telescope, lost, not forgotten. All right, and that concludes this evening's presentation. Does anyone have any questions or comments for tonight's presentation? Please come now with your call sign. Okay, thank you so much for listening. And now we have, to continue the astronomical fun, we have What's Up with Chaz, KF5JHA.
Thank you, Virginia. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. This would be slide number 2, please. We call this segment of Skynet What's Up because it's all about what's going on astronomically, or what has happened over the last couple of weeks, and what's going to happen over the next couple of weeks and beyond. Slide number 3. We've talked about the prediction of a nova of the star T Corona Borealis, which may erupt at any time. It is currently at a brightness of around 10th magnitude, which is much too faint to be seen with just your 2 eyes. Now, when it goes nova, T Corona Borealis could become as bright as the North Star. Now, I can see the North Star with just my 2 eyes from my very light-polluted location in Mesquite. This thing was supposed to go off in September. It's way past due. Slide master, slide number 4, please. This image of the sun was taken on January the 8th, just a few days ago, using my ZWO C-Star. The large sunspot complexes on the sun are so large at times that you can use your solar eclipse glasses to see them. That's all you'd need. The sun is near its 11-year solar maximum. Exactly when that's going to happen, we'll know after it's passed. Oh well. I just talked about the solar cycle about a month ago on Skynet. Slide master, slide number 5, please. The ZWO C-Star, what I was talking about, I took the image of Comet C2023A3T Atlas on December the 11th, a month ago, while I was at Brookhaven campus of Dallas College with all the lights turned on. I didn't even try to spot the comet with binoculars or try with a telescope because it was kind of faint back then. I was going to do that tonight before Skynet. I just did not take an image of it tonight. I should have gone out. I have a sick cat. That's my excuse. Bob the cat's kind of sick, but he's getting better. Slide master, slide number 6, please. On January the 6th, the moon's phase was the quarter. So the current phase of the moon is a waxing gibbous. Full moon occurs on January the 13th in a couple of days. On January the 20th, the moon will be at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth, and is just 404,298 kilometers. On January the 21st, the moon is going to be a third quarter. New moon is on January the 29th. On February the 1st, the moon is at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance of 367,457 kilometers. First quarter moon is on February the 5th. Slide master, slide number 7, please. Now, on the evening of January the 13th, that's just in a couple of days, the moon occults the planet Mars. Mars will disappear behind the moon at 7:54 and 13 seconds, that's p.m. Central Standard Time, and will reappear at 8:57 and 25 seconds p.m. Central Standard Time. Those times are for Brookhaven campus of Dallas College. Times will vary by several minutes depending on where you are within the Metroplex. All you need is your 2 eyes to see this. Wow, pretty cool. Slide master, slide number 8. On January the 14th, the moon and M44, the Beehive star cluster, are in conjunction in the evening sky. Now there are two types of star clusters, globular and open. Globular star clusters have been around since the formation of the Milky Way galaxy. They range from 10,000 members to well over 1 million members, and all have about the same size as our mass of our sun. An open star cluster is relatively new in formation, has from about a dozen to maybe 1,000 member star systems, and it's widely varied in mass and size. M44 is one of those open star clusters. Slide master, slide number 9. On January 15th, the planet Mars.
Remote already in this mode.
To see Saturn. Venus, oh, easy to see. In fact, Venus is near its brightest that it'll be over the next 9 months right now. Slide master, slide number 12. On January the 21st, the moon and the bright star Spica are in conjunction in the morning sky. Slide master, slide number 13. And once again on January the 22nd, the planet Mars and the bright star Pollux are in conjunction. Yep, Mars goes back and forth and it's moving. Yep. This is KF5JJ and this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 14. Now, do any of you out there in Radioland have a question or need a fill on any of the information? Or maybe you just have a general astronomy question. Come now with your call sign if you have a question or need a fill. Nothing. Slide master, slide number 15. So as the moon wanes next week, so do these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live right now. Until next time, actually I'll be doing another segment on Skynet in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is KF5JJ, back to our net control. It's yours again, Virginia.
KF5JJ, NV5S, thanks so much, Chaz. Appreciate all the good stuff that's coming up in the night sky in January. And next we have space exploration and space history, and this week's presenter will be Tom, KE5ICX.
Good evening. The time is 10 p.m.
This is KE5ICX. We'll start with space exploration news. Astronauts set to patch NASA's X-ray telescope aboard space station. NASA astronaut Nick Hague will install patches to the agency's NICER, that's the Neutron Star Interior Composition Explorer X-ray telescope, on the International Space Station as part of a spacewalk scheduled for January 16th. Hague, along with astronaut Suni Williams, will also complete other tasks during the outing. NICER will be the first NASA observatory repaired on orbit since the last servicing mission of the Hubble Space Telescope in 2009. Hague and the other astronauts, including Don Pettit, who is currently on the space station, rehearsed the NICER patch procedures in the NBL, the Neutral Buoyancy Laboratory, a 6.2 million-gallon indoor pool at NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. Next up is how a U.S.-India NICER satellite will offer unique window on Earth. The upcoming U.S.-India NISAR, NASA ISRO Synthetic Aperture Radar mission will observe Earth like no mission before, offering insights about our planet's ever-changing surface. NICER mission is first of its kind with a dual-band radar satellite that will measure land deformation from earthquakes, landslides, and volcanoes, producing data for science and disaster response. It will track how much glaciers and ice sheets are advancing or retreating and will monitor growth and loss of forest and wetlands for insights into the global carbon cycle. The planet's surfaces never stop changing, in some ways small and subtle, and in other ways monumental and sudden. With NICER, we'll measure that change roughly every week, with each pixel capturing an area about half the size of a tennis court. Taking imagery of nearly all of Earth's land and ice surfaces frequently and at such a small scale, down to the centimeter, will help us put pieces together into one coherent picture to create a story about the planet as a living system. NASA has announced two potential plans for retrieving rocks from Mars that may contain evidence of alien life. Since 2021, NASA's Perseverance rover has been busy collecting rocks and sediments in the ancient Martian land lake bed. However, NASA isn't sure how to get these samples back to Earth for analysis. The original Mars sample return program called for collecting the Perseverance samples by 2033, but delays and spiraling costs have forced NASA back to the drawing board last year. NASA will now explore two new landing strategies for retrieving the rock samples before deciding on which one to pursue in 2026, according to a statement released on Tuesday. That would be on January 7th. Pursuing two potential paths forward will ensure that NASA is able to bring these samples back from Mars with significant cost and schedule savings compared to the previous plan, Bill Nelson, NASA administrator, said in the statement. These samples have the potential to change the way we understand Mars, our universe, and ultimately ourselves. The first option relies on a tried-and-tested landing system designed involving the rocket-powered Sky Crane, which uses cables to lower down to the lander. NASA has used this method to land the Perseverance rover on Mars in the first place, and it's estimated to cost between $6.6 and $7.7 billion. The second option relies on a new commercial capabilities from private industry and is estimated to cost between $5.8 and $7.1 billion. NASA didn't discuss the commercial option in detail because of concerns about proprietary technologies designs that Space.com reported. Regardless of which method NASA chooses, the landing system will use a smaller modified version of the Mars Ascent vehicle to carry the rock samples into orbit. The European Space Agency's Earth Return Orbiter, a planned spacecraft that will launch no sooner than 2027, will then collect and transport the samples back to Earth. And now we have birthdays for January 5th through 11th. We have on January 6th, 1948, Guy Gardner, astronaut, was born, of course, and he was on two missions, STS-27 and 35. Oh, wait, that's right. Next up, on January 6th, 1948, Michael Foyle, STS-45, 56, 63, 84, Mir, NASA 5, Mir, that would be Mir EO-23 and 24, STS-86, STS-105, Soyuz TMA-3, that was part of Expedition 8. Next is Frederick Gregory. He was born on January 7th, 1941. He was on STS-51B, 33, 44, Capcom during Challenger, and the Deputy Administrator from NASA, no small thing, from 2002 to 2005. January 11th, 1975, Robert Hines, who is call sign is KI-5RQT, was on the SpaceX Crew 4, Expedition 67-68, April through October of 2022. Next up, this week in space history, We have the following on this day in 1998, January 6th. NASA's Lunar Prospector spacecraft launched from Cape Canaveral Air Force Station. Lunar Prospector, built for NASA Ames Research Center by Lockheed Martin, is a spin-stabilized spacecraft designed to provide NASA with its first global maps of the moon's surface and its gravitational magnetic field, as well as look for possible presence of ice near the lunar poles. It will orbit the moon at an altitude of approximately 63 miles during its one-year mission. Lunar Prospector also carried the ashes of Dr. Eugene Shoemaker to the lunar surface at the end of its mission via Celestre's Luna 1 flight. On June 5th, 1972, President Nixon directed NASA Administrator James C. Fletcher to develop the Space Transportation System, the formal name for this space shuttle, the only element of the STG's recommendations to survive the budgetary challenges. The space shuttle flew from April 12, 1981 until July 21, 2011. Throughout the program, the space shuttle had 135 missions, of which 133 returned safely. On January 7, 1968, Surveyor 7 was launched. It was the fifth and final spacecraft of the Surveyor series to achieve a lunar soft landing. Surveyor 2 and 4 failed upon reaching the moon. The United States landed 6 human missions on the moon between 1969 and 72, and has sent a number of robotic probes to orbit the moon in the last 2 decades, but NASA hasn't sent a robotic lander to the lunar surface since Surveyor 7. The primary objectives of the Surveyor program were to support the crewed Apollo landings. The spacecraft did this by aiding in the development of technology for landing softly on the moon and by providing information on the conditions of the surface of the moon. Surveyor 7 was the only spacecraft in this series to land on the lunar highland region, where it took more than 21,000 photos. On January 8, 1942, British physicist Stephen Hawking was born in Oxford, England. Hawking is most widely known for his research on black holes, which led to one of the first successful unions of the general theory of relativity and quantum mechanics. But he was also the author of many popular science books, including A Brief History of Time and The Universe in a Nutshell. He died on Pi Day, that's March 14th, 2018. January 9th, 1963, the Relay 1 communications satellite relayed the first television program through space, and that program was a video of the unveiling of the Mona Lisa at the U.S. National Gallery of Art in Washington, D.C. Carried out in cooperation with broadcasting companies in the United States and Europe, Relay 1 brought television of the event to stations in France and Great Britain. As they watched, citizens of both countries were able to see the unveiling of the Mona Lisa painting in the National Gallery, along with the famous attendees present, such as President John F. Kennedy and French Minister of Cultural Affairs, André Malraux. The Relay 1 satellite was one of the first satellites to be used to test the prospect of active communications in space. It went on to transmit other significant moments in history in 1963, including Winston Churchill's honorary U.S. citizenship ceremony, and later carried the first trans-Pacific television signals between Japan and the United States. On January 10th, 1946, near Belmar, New Jersey, Lieutenant Colonel John H. DeWitt, Jr., his call sign, by the way, was N4CBC, bounced a radio signal off the moon. DeWitt, the laboratory director of the U.S. Army Signal Corps Evans Signal Laboratory, had given his project the name Diana, after the goddess of the moon. In 1940, DeWitt attempted to bounce radio signals off the moon in order to study the Earth's atmosphere. He wrote in his notebook, "It occurred to me that it might be possible to reflect ultra-short waves from the moon." If this could be done, it would open up wide possibilities for the study of the upper atmosphere. So far as I know, no one has ever sent waves off the Earth and measured their return through the entire atmosphere of the Earth. On January 10th, 1946, he succeeded. The first signals were detected at 11:58 a.m. and the experiment was concluded at 12:09 p.m. when the moon moved out of the radar's range. The radio waves had taken about 2.5 seconds to travel from New Jersey to the moon and back, a distance of over 800,000 kilometers. The experiment was repeated daily over the next 3 days and on 8 more days later that month. This Congress, we have undertaken in the past year a great new effort in outer space. Our aim is not simply to be first on the moon, any more than Charles Lindbergh's real aim was to be the first to Paris. His aim was to develop the techniques and the authority of this country and other countries in the field of air and the atmosphere. And our objective in making this effort, which we hope will place one of our citizens on the moon, is to develop in a new frontier of science, commerce, and communications the position of the United States in the free world. This nation belongs among the first to explore it, and among the first, if not the first, we shall be. And that's it. That's what I have for tonight regarding space and space history. Back to you, Virginia, KE5ICX.
Okay, thank you, Tom. This is Virginia, NV5F. I am your net control for Skynet this evening. And next we've got Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. So Chaz, KF5JH8, is back. Take it away, Chaz.
Thank you again, Virginia. Once again, this is Chaz, KF5JHA. Slide Master, Slide 16. This Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent P. Carolyn, KC50ZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012 till May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Now, since there's about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year out of the 88 total number of constellations, so Ms. Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen over North Texas in a year. And in her honor, we've continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Ms. Carolyn's Constellation of the Week this week is Taurus the Bull. Now, Taurus is the 17th largest constellation in the sky, occupying an area of 797 square degrees. Its name means bull in Latin. The constellation is symbolized by a bull's head. Excuse me. It is one of the oldest constellations. Its history dates back to the Bronze Age. Taurus is one of the 12 constellations of zodiac. That means where the planets and the sun and the moon travel through. First cataloged by the Greek astronomer Claudius Ptolemy in the 2nd century. In Greek mythology, the constellation is associated with Zeus, who transformed himself into a bull to get close to Europa in order to abduct her. Slide Master, slide number 17, the jokes of the week. You don't know how to play this part of the game. That means you can either boo or hiss or put a comment over there in Echo Link if you're on Echo Link. I'm sorry, I forgot to pull up my my YouTube video, so there's a chat session on there, and you could have done something in there. But I won't see it tonight. Okay, here we go. Jokes of the week. Why do bulls wear horns? Excuse me, I messed this all up. Why do bulls wear bells? Because their horns don't work. What's worse than a bull in a china shop? A hedgehog in a balloon factory. I used to be a bull rider, and I was doing really pretty well. Until that guy from Walmart came out and unplugged the electricity. Do they have those rights outside of Walmart anymore? Where do mechanical bulls come from? Well, they're raised on a wrench, not a ranch, a wrench. I used to work on a ranch that kept cows and bulls. That's true. but the pay was utterly terrible. You can think about that one for a while. What do you call a bull when it goes through a door? Well, it would be adorable. And the last one, what do you call 4 bullfighters standing in quicksand? 4 bullfighters standing in quicksand, well, that'd be cuatro cinco. And this is KF5 JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 18. Aldebaran, also known as Alpha Tauri, is the brightest star in Taurus, and long considered to be one of the bull's eyes. The name Aldebaran is derived from the Arabic words which means the follower, supposedly from the fact that the star follows the Pleiades across the sky. Aldebaran is an orange giant star, type K5, with a diameter of about 44 times that of the Sun. It is about 65 light years in distance and is 150 times more luminous than our Sun. Aldebaran is the brightest star that you can see being occulted by the Moon. That means when the Moon would cover it up. And as such, occultations have been observed of Aldebaran since ancient times. According to Burnham's Celestial Handbook, Edmund Halley studied the records of occultations of Aldebaran that was observed in Athens in the March of 509 AD. More than 1,000 years after that took place, Halley conducted the event that could not have occurred unless the position of Aldebaran had moved several minutes further to the north at the time. From a comparison of his positions for those reported in the ancient records, Halley found out that Sirius, Arcturus, and Aldebaran had measurable changes their positions since ancient times. And in 1718, Halley announced the discovery of what we now call proper motion. Slide master, slide number 19. The Pleiades star cluster, also known as M45, is also known as the Seven Sisters. The Seven Sisters name came from the mythological account of the 7 daughters of Atlas, who were placed in the heavens to help overcome their grief over the fate of their father, who had to support the world on his shoulders. Indeed, the brightest stars in the cluster are named after the 7 sisters and their father Atlas and their mother. The Pleiades is one of the special classes of objects that look better in binoculars than in most telescopes. Of course, the Pleiades are easily to see with no optical aid at all. The nebulosity surrounding the stars is easily visible, but you'll need to use higher powers and a larger telescope in order to see that. Makes it easier to see, at least for most people. In a 10-inch f5 telescope, you can find the entire cluster in about 40 power with a 62-millimeter wide field of view eyepiece. But the dazzling light of the stars makes the nebulosity difficult. Most people like viewing the Pleiades this way because you can see the entire cluster in a wide field of binocular size view. At 10 inches behind you, you can see a lot. You can see many of the fainter stars, but your eyes are probably too dazzled to really see the nebulosity very well. However, an 8-inch f10 diameter Cassegrain telescope with a 52-millimeter eyepiece yields about 40 power and only shows part of the cluster, yet the nebulosity is easily noticeable with this arrangement. The entire cluster contains about 100 stars and spans a spherical region of space about 14 light years in diameter. It's about 400 light years away. And this is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 20. The Hyades, also is known as Lot 25. The Hyades is a mythological where the half-sisters of the Pleiades and the daughters of Atlas and The stars of the Hyades are often associated with rainy and stormy weather in ancient times, and the name itself is derived from the Greek word which means to rain. Like the Pleiades, the Hyades look better in binoculars than they do with most telescopes, even more than the Pleiades since they span a much larger area. Like the Pleiades, they are easily made out with the unaided eye. The cluster and Aldebaran form a distinctive V shape that marks the face of Taurus the Bull. Aldebaran is not a member of the Hyades, but is actually a foreground star, as I told you earlier, 65 light years in distance. The Hyades are over twice as far away at 151 light years. Hyades form a second closest star, open star cluster to our solar system. The only known star cluster that is closer is the Ursa Major moving group that's also called Colander 285, which is the most of the stars of the Big Dipper are members. The core of the Ursa Major moving group is about 80 light years away. Slide master, slide number 21, please. Messier object number 1. The first object of the famous Messier catalog, and one is the Crab Nebula, the remnant of a supernova explosion that happened on July the 4th, 1054 AD. So almost 1,000 years have passed since the supernova explosion. The Crab Nebula is easy to see in many binoculars and small telescopes, and one is easily found in the line between the two horns of Taurus the Bull. And one lies in the line just 1 degree from Zeta Tauri. Binoculars simply show a small fuzzy patch, but even in telescopes of 3 inches or less, you can see the nebulously shows some basic lumping oval outline because of photographs. Well, just like photographs, I should say. Of course, much more detail is available in larger instruments. Slide master, slide number 22. NGC, which stands for New General Catalog 1647, the Pirate Moon Cluster. Dave Hutchinson describes NGC 1647 as a nice open cluster of about 80 stars. It's easy to find since it's only about 3 degrees away from Aldebaran, between the bull's horns, and it stands out well in binoculars or a finder scope. Feels the lowest power view of a Dynamax telescope looking at 40 power. The Dynamax reminds us of looking at the Beehive cluster in Cancer at 20 power. There's a nice bright star of the pairs on the southern edge of the cluster with much fainter members of having a distinct reddish-orange color. These two stars are probably the foreground stars since they are brighter than the rest of the cluster of stars. And this is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 23. Now, there's a few more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellation of Taurus the Bull. I've given you just a sampling of some of those objects. The Astronomical League has, at last count, 74 different observing programs, most of which have about 100 objects. So, if you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pen from the Astronomical League in about a year. Slide master, slide number 24. And that is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, Taurus the Bull. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for the research and words on deep sky objects that I've used, borrowed, and I steal for every Skynet. I also at times use the website Constellation-Guide.com for information. Then next week we'll take a look at Selim, the Chisel, and Columba, the Dove. This is KF5JJ Chaz. I'm going to say goodnight in 73. Back to our net control. Virginia, it's yours.
Okay, thank you, Chaz. Appreciate the constellation of the week. And this is Virginia in V5F, net control for Skynet. And we now have space launches for this week from Tom, KE5ICX.
All right, right, thank you, Virginia. And here we go. This is subject to change, but here is what we have. New Glenn 1 will maybe launch from Complex 36 on January 12th from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. The New Glenn rocket will launch the company's Blue Ring spacecraft, which is capable of both hosting and deploying multiple payloads. Blue Origin will attempt to land the first stage booster on a sea-based landing platform, Jacqueline. Now, this has been delayed several times, January 6th and 10th, so we're still waiting to make sure that this happens. Then we have on January 13th, the Falcon 9 will launch Starlink 10-12-4. This will be another batch of Starlink V2 mini satellites into low Earth orbit, a little more than 8 minutes after launch. We have then Starship launching Flight 7. This will be scheduled for January 13th at 4 p.m. Starbase Boca Chica Beach, Texas is where it will launch from. There will be the sixth suborbital flight test of the fully integrated Starship rocket, combination of the ship upper stage S-33 and the Super Heavy booster B-14. SpaceX plans to catch the Super Heavy booster using chopsticks on the launch tower. Will make the final determination on the catch following the liftoff and stage separation. This mission will feature the first block upgrades for the Starship's upper stage. S-33 will perform a landing flip and make a gentle splashdown in the Indian Ocean. January 14th will be Falcon 9 launch transporter 12. This is from SLC-4E at Vandenberg. The Falcon 9 rocket will launch the company's 12th rideshare mission to a sun-synchronous orbit. On board are a variety of customer satellites, including 35 satellites integrated by EXO Launch, along with 36 Super Doves and a Pelican 2 from Planet Labs PBC. Less than 8 minutes after liftoff, the first stage will return to the landing pad near the launch site. Then we have Falcon 9 launch on January 15th. Ghost Riders in the Sky, it's called, from Launch Complex 39A. Kennedy Space Center, the Falcon 9 rocket will launch a pair of lunar landers to begin the independent journeys to the moon. We were just talking about those. Primary payload is Firefly Aerospace Blue Ghost lunar lander. It'll carry 10 science payloads from NASA as part of the Commercial Lunar Payload Services, or CLPS program. The Ghost Riders in the Sky mission will target a landing at Mare Crisium near Mons La Trie in early March. Japan-based J-Space Resilience lander will also travel to the moon as a secondary payload to the Falcon 9 rocket. It will take between 4 and 5 months before making the landing attempts near the center of Mars Frigoris. It too carries a number of payloads, including the Tenacious Micro rover. And for the sake of time, visible satellite passages, go to heavensabove.com/ just go there and look up ISS and Tiangong from the North Texas area. There's several good flyovers on the 14th, 15th, 12th, and 13th, respectively, for the ISS. So you may want to keep an eye out for that. Back to you, Virginia, KE5ICX.
Okay, thank you, Tom. And we are over time now, so thanks for all the space launches and stuff like that. We will be beginning the Afterglow movie net in just a few minutes. But before we go, I will see if there are any people who want to get on the list for check-ins. One last call for check-ins. Call sign, your name, and where you are. Please come now.
This is Whiskey Bravo 4 Mike Foxtrot India WV4MFI Ted Dallas Low Power.
Okay, then it recognizes WB4 MFI Ted in Dallas. Thank you, Ted. It wouldn't be Skynet without you, so thanks for checking in. And that is it for this week. Let's see. Let me just check through. Tonight we had 21 hams participating in the air on Skynet. Thank you to all who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next weekend, every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all the other DARC nets. If you would like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussions about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and X, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. Until next Saturday night, this is NV5F. My name is Virginia, and I will be closing the net at 10:32 local time and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. 73, everybody. Enjoy the evening discovering the universe. Thanks so much, and we'll break for about 5 minutes or so and then begin the afterglow. This is NV5F.
Kilo 5, Juliet Delta Whiskey.
Kilo 5, Juliet Delta Whiskey. This is NV5F. Did you want to get on the check-in for Skynet?
I did, Virginia, thanks. I don't know if I just didn't make it or I doubled or what. Just wanted to get a late check-in. I listened to the last third about where Carolyn came in. K5 JDW.
Okay, thank you so much. That'll make our count for tonight 22, and hopefully you can stick around for Afterglow in a few minutes. NV5F.
Thanks so much. Kilo 5, Juliet Delta Whiskey, clear.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima. My name is Brenda, and we are now ready for our Afterglow movie net. Every week we watch an assigned movie, and then we discuss it at Skynet. This week's movie is called The Doomsday Machine, and I am going to read the synopsis that Wikipedia has. It's also known as Escape from Planet Earth. It's an American science fiction film mostly filmed in 1967, but completed without the original cast or sets in 1972. A spy discovers that the Chinese government has created a doomsday device, the key to which only Chairman Mao has, capable of destroying the Earth, and it will be activated in 72 hours. Soon after, Astra, a 2-year return mission to Venus by the United States Space Program, has its time of launch speeded up, and half of the male flight crew are replaced by women shortly before takeoff, including one Russian. Shortly before blastoff, military alerts are put into effect. After leaving Earth, the 7 crew members of Astra deduce that they have been put together to restart the human race should the Chinese activate their device. Shortly after this, the device goes off and the Earth is destroyed. As Astra continues to Venus, the crew discovers that a safe landing on Venus is impossible unless the crew is reduced to 3. Mason tries to rape Carlson, at which point she accidentally gets them both blown out of an airlock. 2 more crew members, Danny and Major Bronsky, are lost as they head out to repair a fault with the spaceship. However, they notice another spacecraft nearby and jump to it. The second spacecraft proves to be a lost Soviet ship that disappeared, piloted by a close friend of the Russian crew member. Though his pilot is dead, Danny and Bronsky successfully power up the Soviet ship. Before the 2 ships can rendezvous, contact with Astra is lost. A disembodied voice cuts in, claiming to be the collective consciousness of the Venusian population. The voice informs the survivors, whom the Venetians refer to as the last of man, and the Russian ship that Astra no longer exists, presumably destroyed somehow by the telepathic Venusians, and that the ship, due to the self-destructive potential of humans, will not be allowed to reach Venus. It gives a cryptic message regarding the prospect of starting new life in a very strange and very great place, somewhere far beyond the rim of the universe. Stand by while I reset. Before the ship suddenly blasts off, apparently by the power of the Venusians, and the movie abruptly concludes. Very happy movie. All the humans except for 2 of them die, so that's just a real, high note that we hit there at the end. All right, what we're going to do here is check-ins, and then we'll take 3 rounds. First one, we'll talk about the plot, if you can find a plot in this thing. Secondly, we'll talk about the characters, characterization, actors, etc. And then thirdly, could be special effects or anything else you want to talk about. So let's take general check-ins first. Please come now with your name, call sign, and whether or not you saw this movie. So please come now.
Hello, 5. Juliet, Delta Whiskey. I've got a short time here. I've seen that movie before. I think I recall I was disappointed with the ending, but don't call on me. I got to take off, and I'll be back a little later. But just wanted to check in. K5 JDW.
Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-ray. Tom, yes, I fell asleep 3 times, but I did see most of it. KE5 ICX.
Tom, I think you're breaking up badly there. This is N5BB, Bill, in Irving. I saw most of it, so I may be kind of in and out. If we really go the full time here, watching the last 20 minutes. N5BB.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony and Dallas. I did not watch the movie, but you know, the bird and the dog are both very happy.
This is NV5F, Virginia. I did see the movie. I think Tony got me, so I'm trying again.
Okay, we got K5JDW John, who saw the movie at one point, and may not be here that long. KE5ICX Tom, who saw some of it until he fell asleep. N5BB Bill, who saw some of it. NT5TM Tony, who didn't see it. November Victor 5 Foxtrot Virginia, who did see it, and I saw it. I think she and I are the only ones that saw the whole thing. Unless somebody on Echolink did. Let's take Echolink check-ins. Okay, hearing none, I guess we'll go ahead and get started, and if you saw part of it, you can talk about what you saw, or you can talk about anything you want to talk about. Okay, K5JDW, go ahead. I guess he's stepped away. We'll circle back to him. KE5ICX, Tom, tell us what you thought about the plot.
Well, thank you, Brenda. Hopefully my signal, or at least my connection, is good. I've noticed it's kind of running iffy here at the complex, so we'll see it run hot and cold, but hopefully you can hear me. This film was a disaster in more ways than one. It was the end of the world, but it could have been the end of cinema, too. I'm not sure what happened here. I do know that the film itself, and there's a history, that it did not get produced immediately. It was filmed and then ran out of money, and then it was completed later on. And there's 2 distinct looks to the film along the way. The latter part of the film was finished with the Soviet spacecraft played by an American model of a command service module from the Apollo program. Like we wouldn't notice that right after the moon missions. But at any rate, there was a lot of time spent just talking. Well, we've got to go to the moon, or we've got to go to Venus. We're going to change the crew out. They have 45 minutes to get on board the spaceship because they're expediting the launch. And they stand there in real time and talk about the mission for another 10 whole minutes in actual time. This was nuts. It was obvious that they needed more material. They had film plenty of stuff, you always have usually more than enough stuff. And when you're just having talking heads, you have lots of that material designed to go ahead and cut it down to a more manageable size. They didn't do that. So these people are super boring. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about what's going on. And then changing out the women, the male astronauts are dumber than a box of rocks. They couldn't figure out that they were there on the repopulation mission or a possibility of a repopulation mission. What else would be the reason, even though it was classified? There's no science in any of this, of course, so it was very distracting. By the time this movie was released, even if it was filmed in 1972, everyone knew that Venus was not a place that was habitable by anyone or anything. Maybe the distances explained were okay, but the planet itself makes no sense for colonization or people living there or anything. It just none of that makes any sense whatsoever. Oh, geez, there was something else I was going to say about it. The spaceships kept changing shapes and types and everything else. Oh, geez, what a mess. Boy, I don't know. I'm coming up short right now. I'll think of something. I should have taken some notes on this thing. But the fact that, they're going to blow up the world and Chairman Mao's going to take care of it was a bit of a stretch, but who knows? Doomsday machine. I'm sure there's one out there somewhere. Maybe wandering the galaxy. I guess that's it for now, Brenda. Back to you. KE5ICX.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Next, N5BV. Bill, go ahead.
Okay, Brenda, this is N5BB. Well, I just saw the depressurization sequence. So, man, that was gruesome. I haven't seen the way the thing ends, so I'm not going to ask final things. I'm going to be watching it. So if you come back to me again, I don't answer. It's because I'm watching the movie. I'll be back before the end of the net. The main idea, I guess, of the movie about, of course, has been thought of in various science fiction stories. This is N5BB. But the way this plot was thrown together, I mean, the way it acted like this was an instantaneous decision that had to be made very fast. You know, that melodrama thing, that's really goofy. I don't know. Because I haven't seen the end of the movie, it's hard for me to comment more about the plot. Other than there are a lot of things in the dialogue, in the writing of it, which are completely goofy, that make absolutely no sense. Like relative humidity, 76 degrees. Okay, you have degrees of relative humidity, not percent, and other goofy things. They're all holding clipboards. So, obviously they have computers, they talk about them, we don't really see much of them, but they're holding clipboards and they have to tell each other how to adjust 15 degrees up and things, and the other person has to do it. So, if somebody's flying this thing, one person needs to do everything. Not one person does half of it and the other person does half of it. Artificial gravity wasn't really explained. That was kind of goofy. The spacesuits, they talk about, we got to get in on spacesuits, sir. If there's a breach in the hull, will be hurt. But the spacesuits don't have visors on them. They're not pressurized. So that made absolutely no sense at all. Of course, my standard complaint, there is no sound in space. So what do we hear? We hear booms like of the Earth exploding, sound like booms in the distance. Come on. And the sequence, of course, this I guess is special effects. The sequence of this quote, meteor unquote, coming to him, just incredibly unrealistic special effects. Also, I didn't like the way it's written with the interaction between the characters. I thought it was very unrealistic, crazy. Even before they left the Earth, they were arguing and argumentative. And Bobby Van, the actor that played Danny, was Mr. Goofball. I don't know. To me, it was a silly movie.
4, 8, 9, 0, 2.
I guess maybe we're the rest of it just to see, are they actually going to land on Venus? Will anybody else accidentally send themselves out of the airlock? How in the world can you put a button on the wall, which you've accidentally lean up against it, depressurizes that compartment? Somehow I don't think the spacecraft are designed that way. Anyway, I'll be back later in 5dB.
Thank you, Bill. Next, NT5TM Tony. You didn't see it, but do you want to say something? Well, okay, let's move on. NV5F Virginia. I know that you saw the whole movie, and I'd like to hear your comments on the plot. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Brenda. I actually paid attention because, I figured that Bill shouldn't be the only person who knows what actually happened in the movie. So I tried to stay awake and I paid attention. It was obvious that there was some cobbling together. It almost seemed like they were making, especially at the beginning, like they were making a couple of different movies, but because you had the Chinese people sneaking around and finding this Chinese doomsday device, and then you had the sudden cut to, we're at a space facility and we're launching a mission to Venus, and then suddenly, for not very good reasons, they decide to put women on the mission, and I guess it's because they knew that something was up, and that was kind of talked about. The women are like, why did they put us on this mission, and they kind of figure out, there's some kind of danger, and we might be the last people to survive, and so then they're all in this spacecraft that is, of course, bigger on the inside than it is on the outside, which is always the case in these movies. And it had fabulous recliner seats and disco lighting, which I thought added a wonderful touch. Since it looked like it was made in the 60s, even though it was released in 76, it looked very dated to an earlier time. I'll address that in the round 3. I've got a few things to say about that. So you've got these, 4 guys and 3 gals on a space mission, all different ages, and you got a Russian lady thrown in there. 2010 totally ripped this off. In 1984, the joint everybody everything mission. And, they tried to make some plot out of the relationships that would inevitably arise between male and female characters thrown into a situation they weren't expecting to be in, as if that would really happen in real life. They're pretty much psychologically vetted for being professional in those kinds of situations, and they wouldn't have just thrown them together haphazardly at the last minute. And, you had lots of relationship-y stuff, and you had like the guy the kind of the sexual tension between that one guy and that one gal that got a little bit intense, and added some suspense. And then there was a couple of other nicer relationships forming, and I actually liked the Russian lady. There was some banter about the Soviet space program, and they did put in a nice little foreshadowing that paid off at the end, where the guy and the gal who were mad at each other had all the tension between them. They're the ones who ended up spacing themselves in their weird quarrel that they were having, and that was kind of weird. But there was all this talk about how there weren't enough. Of course, on all these plots, there's like, we're 3/4 of the way through the mission, and for some reason we figure out we don't have enough resources, and somebody's not going to make it, and we're going to have to, get rid of people, and then, a couple of people end up dying, and then the Russian lady and the guy that likes her, they go out to do some kind of a repair, and they end up seeing a Soviet spacecraft or a probe to Venus that the Americans think was a manned probe.
Good evening. Node 4811002. Time out.
Saves them, and it's going to save everybody, because now they're not worrying about, who's going to continue the species when, oh yeah, I've left out the whole Earth blowing up thing, the doomsday thing. The doomsday thing goes off, and, and by the end of this, the guy and the American guy and the Russian gal had found the old Russian spacecraft, and they were in there firing it up, and that meant there was enough resources for the remaining, I guess it was 3 of them that were left on the American spacecraft, and all was well. And then something stupid happened to them, and then the guy and the gal that are on the Russian ship, you think everything's going to be fine. They're all going to get to Venus, and I'm sorry, Bill, I'm spoiling this for you. I apologize. Maybe you're not listening. I hope not. You think, oh, this is going to work. They've had their big reversals. The couple who died, that's sad. But, hey, these people are going to go repopulate the species on Venus. It's going to be great. And then something happens to the American ship. I don't know why I wasn't paying much attention there. I really tried to pay good attention all the way through this. But something happened to them. And then all you've got left is this one couple on this old Russian craft with a dead Russian astronaut on there, and then it turns into a Star Trek episode, and suddenly there's some disembodied voice from Venus that's speaking for some collective consciousness that's there on Venus, and they don't want anybody coming down there and messing their stuff up, and so they decide to send them through some kind of Stargate or vortex or something, and they're going to carry on humanity in some other dimension or something. The ending was dumb. So and I cared about them. I actually, like, you know, the tension made me kind of care about these people at least a little bit. And I wanted them to get to Venus and carry on the species. But, you know, the ending was dumb. It was almost like Tom was talking about, the production took forever. They were obviously, you know, eking along for years and years, just kind of scrabbling it together a piece at a time. And I guess they finally were just like, you know, they were like Stanley Kubrick in 2001 when MGM finally said, the gravy train has run dry. You're going to have to finish this movie. And so Stanley Kubrick quit his efforts to figure out a way for Dave to actually meet aliens and said, okay, no aliens. We're going to have to end this without aliens. And, of course, it ended up being the best thing that happened in 2001, even though it hacked a lot of people off. And this was kind of the same thing. They maybe ran out of money, and they're like, let's just make it kind of mysterious, except 2001 is awesome, and this movie sucks in V5F.
Thank you, Virginia. Do we have any more check-ins?
Kilo Bravo 9, Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth. Yes, I did see this movie.
My pen came out when I'm trying to write down your call, which I think was Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean. Go ahead and tell us your thoughts on the plot.
Yeah, this is KB9S, okay. Yeah, I agree with what everybody said. Yeah, the plot was kind of ridiculous. You know, the movie started out kind of almost like a spy kind of show. You know, we have them sneaking around the Chinese place, and then yet nothing really happens. We know the one Chinese girl hit an event, but they never go back and tell us why she wasn't successful in stopping it. I didn't quite understand that. I probably missed something there. So that didn't make a lot of sense. And then, yeah, as everybody's brought up, it's kind of ridiculous. The whole last minute change and then, you know, changing out the people and, you know, exactly how do you pull all that together in the last few seconds. Literally, you know, an hour before launches, we're grabbing all these quote-unquote experts that already know how to fly the ship and all this. So that seems a little bit odd. Yeah, the dialogue wasn't great. To the astronauts, I'm pretty sure they would have briefed the astronauts on what was really going on. After all, you know, real astronauts deal with, you know, top secret stuff all the time, doing tests for the government stuff when they're in space. So it's not exactly like it'd be an issue there. And then, too, the whole plot idea of repopulating, you know, there wasn't enough gene pool there. I mean, you can't do it with two people, but you can't do it with three groups of people either. So, just kind of ridiculous. And then, yeah, there was just a lot of bad science in this movie in general. With, yeah, the flying of the ship, the recliners, which I found absolutely hilarious that they used lazy boy recliners. So there was almost a comical part of there. Like, we've seen lawn chairs, we've seen some pretty bad chairs before, but that was pretty funny. Of course, it wasn't meant to be. But, yeah, you know, once again, we had astronauts. I mean, this is kind of almost round two, but it is a big part of the plot because there was so much dialogue. These astronauts weren't at all professional except for maybe the commander. He was the one that seemed to be serious, and the Russian lady, they seemed to actually maybe act like real astronauts and scientists, you know, kept cool heads. I mean, they're trained for extreme situations, and yeah, the Earth blowing up is going to be beyond an extreme situation, but still, even before the Earth blew up, these people were acting like high schoolers. You know, we had the one guy that kept going after the other lady and acting like, well, just an idiot. I mean, it was just completely inappropriate and almost cringe to watch, quite honestly. I realize this was back in the 70s, but still,
there's even the 70s astronauts are way more professional than that, and this was in the first hours of the mission. So, yeah, it was pretty strange. And then, yeah, that makes sense now. I didn't read about it going on forever to get this film made, which explains the ending, why they just kind of ended it. You know, I think everybody's heard about several of the other plot holes that was on my list. I won't repeat them, but yeah, the ending, yeah, they tried to do the 2000 thing and 2001 thing, and it was just kind of ridiculous. Yeah, Virginia, they didn't really explain the first ship getting destroyed too much, other than I think they kind of insinuated the aliens from Venus took them out. The last thing you see is that rocket, or that ship going into boost like it was getting ready to land, or go into the atmosphere, and then that was it. They really didn't say nothing more. Not unless I missed it too, so I'm guessing they're insinuating that they incinerated them. So yeah, just a bad movie, and see definitely why it took so long to get made, because I'm sure they weren't happy with the way things were going and kept tweaking things. But anyway, yeah, that's all I got. I'll send it back to that KB9S. Okay.
Thank you, Sean. All right, it's my turn. Yeah, they started this in 1957, and then something happened that they didn't finish it until 1972. And it does have that look about it that somebody had some brilliant ideas of how to make a movie, and it just didn't really work out, or they ran out of money, or they ran out of ideas. And then later they're trying, because they spent all this money on it, they're trying to save it. And somebody else steps in, and I think they really just wanted to get it off their plate as soon as they could. So let's just do something. And the ending was a total real problem with the idea that you got these 4 men in a ship, and you bring in these 3 women, and they're going to be forced to procreate together. Now, I don't know if they did any tests on the women to see if they were actually fertile, or on the men. You know, we don't know that any of these people could even have children. Did anyone know how to deliver a baby? And I think that studies show that the least number of people that you can start with and create a viable society is about at least 40. And I don't think you could do it with 3 women. You're going to have genetic problems. And you have these people that are at each other's throats already. What's it going to be like when you got crying babies around? You know, what they should have done, if they really wanted to propagate, is put more people and more food and water on the ship. And the idea that you're going to jettison people was ridiculous. Take some of the junk and throw it out. You know, the whole idea is we've got to rebuild the human race. Well, let's throw some of the people out because we don't have room for them. This is stupid. And I question if the women what were they there for other than to have babies? Were they trained to do specific tests on the ship? And, you know, I guess they could train on the way, and that would have been better than bickering or groping. So I didn't find any of the characters particularly likable or sympathetic, except maybe the Russian woman. These people didn't really sound much. Hold on, let me reset. These people didn't act like the professional astronauts that we know. And, you know, I have a problem with the fact that the Chairman Mao would just push a button and destroy the whole Earth, every human being on it? What would be his motivation for that? I don't understand that. He'd be gone too. There's just no percentage in this. So that was kind of unbelievable. I know that was just kind of a construct so that they could make it work. And then at the end, it's like, we got to wrap this thing up in 2 minutes. Just do anything. So we've got ship mysteriously just disappears, and the other one is mysteriously going somewhere, and you sure can't rebuild a society with 2 people, because it's just not your gene pool is going to be too small, and they were really vague about where they were sending them and what the reason was. So, yeah, giving it 2 thumbs down. This was stupid, ignorant, unscientific, and not really very entertaining. All right. Next up, we're going to talk about characters and characterization. We'll go down the list. If you didn't talk the first time, like John and Tony didn't answer, you could step back and talk about plot if you want to. So we'll call on John, K5JDW. Do you have something to say about this? Okay, I guess he went away. K5ICX. Thomas, tell us what you think about the characters.
Well, as Tony likes to say, these characters are, interchangeable, except for, Will Ferrell? Who was it? The guy from MASH? And Casey Kasem? I thought you guys were kidding when you said that he was in it. It turns out he really was in this film. So I don't know why. I hope they gave him a few bucks. Must have been during his drug-induced days. But anyway, he's in it. And, what is it? Farrell from MASH? I can't think of his first name. He's in it too. But I don't see him. Oh, yeah, here he is. Mission Control Officer, Casey Kasem. And there's a shot of him, and does he look like him? Yeah, I guess it does. Okay, fine. And Mike Farrell as one of the reporters. The board reporters, by the way, everybody was sitting there kind of like falling out of their seats. Nobody wanted to ask any of the tough questions, just sitting around going, are you going to launch soon? I want to see the explosion. That's kind of what they all look like. Everybody else, who cares? It started out kind of interesting. They had the spies, and they were going to go in, and they took the pictures of the doomsday device that really didn't play much into the film because we never saw the Earth blow up, or did we? Maybe we did. I don't know. I could have fallen asleep during the Earth blowing up part. I probably did. I did miss the 2 guys being blown out into space. I missed that, and the gal leaning on the button, the big button, I guess. Oh, well. Let's see. What was there more interesting? I always wondered about the voice, the annoying voice at the very end that just kept talking and talking and talking. It reminded me of, and this is from this movie that they stole the special effects, The Wizard of Mars. If you remember, the guy at the end just kept talking and talking and talking and talking and talking and talking and never said anything. He was lecturing the people about going to Mars. Well, apparently Venus it sounded like the same guy. I don't remember. But at any rate, it was also very boring, and he talked forever. But he killed everybody at the end, which is good. Except for the spaceship. I still don't understand what happened to it. That got propelled into a whole new place, or did he blow that up too? In all of the talking, they never explained anything that happened, so I don't know. And yes, the film had lots of talking with all these people talking to one another in a half-hearted way. So do I care about any of the characters? No, not at all. Do I feel that this could have been done better? Yes. Could this have actually been made into a decent movie? Not so sure, but it might have been possible if they had a decent script and maybe more than $12.98 to do the effects and the filming, but who knows? It was in color. That was exciting. Oh well, I don't know. What else can I say about it? I didn't care about any of the characters, Danny or Dr. Now, I will mention this though. If you notice the white coat syndrome, the medical jacket syndrome, how long does it take for the actors and actresses to put their hands in those big pockets where you put the stethoscope? Took 2 seconds. That's how long. And we watched the guy put the jacket on, and he immediately slipped his hands into the big pockets. That seems to be irresistible for actors. Now, I never see the doctors ever do it. Not real doctors don't do it. Now they don't even wear those things anymore. My GP actually wears a black one. I guess he thinks he's a ninja or something, but I don't think they even put pockets on him anymore because they don't want to touch you and they don't want to carry anything that might be used that you'd have to touch you. So it's completely gone the other way. Is that enough meandering? Back to you, Brenda, KE5ICX.
Okay. N5BB, Bill. Do you have something to say now? Are you finished watching?
Oh, I'm finished. This is N5BB. I was able to watch the whole movie, and I wasn't able to listen really to very much of what some other people said. I apologize because I was listening to the movie. But as far as I can tell, the last 12 minutes or so of the movie, maybe 12 to 14 minutes, was probably tacked on after they completed the rest of this fine flick. Because the last 12 minutes, you can't see the astronauts on the Astra, the ones that went out to, the two of them that went out to separate, and then happened to find the Soviet spacecraft and just wandered over there. They didn't have rocket belts. They just kind of pushed themselves over there like they could do that in space. You notice their visors were closed and dark. Either it was a really bad film-to-video transfer, or more than likely, it was purposely filmed in the really, really dimly. Why did they do that? Because you can't see anything. Because the set was minimal. There was just nothing there, hardly. I noticed something, they had like a window where it looked like something was blue outside, I guess the surface of Venus. But I noticed that when one of the actors would move, his shadow would appear on that, which makes no sense at all. The light, in other words, the light was actually shining on that. It wasn't coming in from the outside. So my guess is the last 12 minutes they threw in there just to put it in the can, just to finish the darn thing up. And the worst part of there's several worst parts of this movie, but I think the very worst part was the collective intelligence of Venus talking to them at the end. I told you earlier I'd reserve judgment. Okay, I'm not reserving anything now. Bad, 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 bad. And I can't believe that real actors, I mean, Bobby Van was a celebrity for at least for a few months back then, and I just can't believe that they got him to do this really, really bad, and the other people, the really, really bad movie. after watching this movie, would you hire any of these actors to do something else? would you hire the writer to do anything else? The screenplay writer? Oh, my golly. And, of course, I'm sure it's not based on a book, because there can't be any book that would be written that would be that bad. This has to be just a thrown-together screenplay.
No,
they just
4,
added stuff in there,
0, 2,
and they edited everything together. Oh, my. I don't know. I can't believe that anybody would recommend this movie to be seen in a movie theater or a video or anything. So, Rotten Tomatoes or anything like that, the score should be negative 500. This is Inside BB.
All right, thank you, Bill. Next, NT5TM Tony, are you with us? Do you have anything to say? Go ahead.
Hey, Brenda, I've been listening, but unfortunately, I think this movie is a total stinker. I'm not going to try to watch it. I'm sad for all of you who did watch it. I'm just going to... I'm going to go to sleep and wake up in the morning refreshed and do some gardening, happy in the knowledge that I have not seen this movie. NT5TM.
Well, okay, just be that way. You'll be better off not seeing it. It will improve your mental health. I think I'm damaged. All right, NV5F, Virginia. Tell us about characters.
Okay, thank you, Brenda. Well, I guess I touched on characters a little bit in the last round, but actors and characters, I think that the people who were acting in this did okay. They were, considering what they had been given, they seemed like pretty good actors. Like, if they had a good script or a good director, they probably could have done really good with something. The story was a little contrived. It was like soap opera in space. There was some sense in which I saw some potential for some relationship stuff, and I think it would have been more interesting to get them all on Venus and see how that whole thing went, because that's more what was really the subject of this anyway. You had space as kind of the thing that is sort of the inciting incident, space and the Doomsday Machine. It was almost like they were trying to make a couple different movies here, but all they really had was these few actors and a little bit of, the stuff they got of them. So I thought they were fine as just acting, doing the best that they could with their material. I did kind of care about some of them by the end. I liked the the bad guy, the mean guy who was intense. He was kind of bad, and I didn't like him. And hey, that means the actor did a pretty good job if I didn't like him. And the other guys seemed pretty great, and the Russian lady was very likable. And I don't know, I thought it was an older style, kind of forced into a newer genre, and they did the best they could with it. And the ending was a cheat, and it would have been more interesting to see them all maybe get to Venus in the two spacecraft, and maybe even like land there and start a new life and have kind of a happy ending. So I was kind of rooting for them by the end, so that's why the ending of this stunk so bad, because I just kind of at least wanted them to the ones that lived, I wanted them to actually live through it, and they didn't, and that stinks. So that's it for me for this round. I have a couple things to say in the next bit in V5F. Okay, KB9SOK, Sean, tell us what you thought about characterization.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, I agree with the whole, wasn't the actor's fault. It's just a bad script. Yeah. Yeah, actually, Bill's comment reminded me, I forgot to mention, the ending there, and that makes sense, Bill. I think you're right. I think they did tack that on, because we literally, one that I thought one of the most boring parts of the movie was at the end there, where you see them in the Russian spaceship, and there's literally like a 10-minute scene of them, no talking, no nothing, just him looked like randomly pressing things on a panel, and it just went on and on. And then when he finally did talk, I thought the audio was weird because it didn't sound like his voice at all. So I wonder if they did go back and film that with somebody, they just dubbed in somebody else's voice, because I don't think that maybe was done by the original actor. So that actually, I think, makes some sense. Because, that scene was just bad. It was just, like it was literally just last-second thought there. So, I agree. Most of the characters I really didn't care about too much. The two that did make it to the Russian, ship, those are about the only two characters I really liked that maybe I actually did care a little bit about. I thought the captain was okay. The rest of them were kind of useless. I didn't care if they made it or not. I agree. I think it would have been better had they made it to Venus, and maybe that was the original intentions, and then when they ran out of time and money, they just had to end it. But not a lot to add on this section, so back to that. KB9SOK.
Okay, thank you. This is WB50ZL. Afterglow movie being Doomsday, the Doomsday Machine. How quickly we forget. These characters were not very believable as astronauts, I'll say that. And the whole premise of going to recreate society on another planet is ridiculous. You got to have a lot of supplies to do that. Do they even have seeds? Is there anything to eat on Venus? I mean, we know now. We knew then Venus was uninhabitable. But they were going to go anyway and try it. And the odds of survival like that are very slim. If they wouldn't know basics of how to build a fire or grow anything, or their freeze-dried supplies are going to run out, and I don't give them much of a chance of success. Have a personal story about Ruta Lee. She was the blonde Marion. I saw her one time, many years ago. She has a large filmography, but, it's a little older. She is still alive. She's 89. It says she's still active as an actress, which is a little hard to believe. But I was at the World Chili Cook-Off in 1970. This is the one where Wick Fowler won the World Championship. And Ruta Lee was the celebrity guest. And, people were kind of, staring at her and everything because she's an actress. And Wick won the competition that year. And she was sitting on his lap. And I thought, it's kind of not okay. And Wick's wife didn't think so either. She was clearly glaring at the whole thing. But, she was a starlet, and she was fairly famous at the time. I know probably most of you are going, who is that? And never heard of her, but at the time, she was famous enough. Anyway, what else? I think I'll quit it there. On characters, they were just they were not so good. Okay, K5JDW John, we're going to see if you're here, so please check in if you are. We have plenty of time left, so I think we'll just go down the list rather than see who wants to say anything. K5ICX, Tom, tell us about special effects or costumes, music, anything else you want to say about this fine film?
All right, hi again, Brenda. Thank you for doing the net control responsibilities this evening. It's most appreciated. Terrible special effects, pretty obvious. Started out okay. They had a lot of action at the very beginning, and then it just pooped out almost immediately. About 10 minutes into the film, it got to its lackluster pace. That was annoying, I guess. Music was fair to Midland, no problem there, I guess. Audio was fine, you could understand what they were saying. It wasn't until the end, though, that's when they filmed the new scenes. The audio was distorted, dark picture, which I think is what Bill mentioned because there's no set. I agree, that's exactly what I think happened. There was no attempt to sew anything together. Continuity is terrible. Really just a terrible stinkeroo film. The story itself might have worked. The ending, there was no ending. This is a typical science fiction failure in the sense that they've painted themselves into a corner and they have no footage because anything they would do would cost money. They would have to go down to Venus. That would cost money. If they were going to encounter the Venus sites, that would cost money. If they had to land on the planet, that would cost money. Instead, they just decided to send the spaceship off in a stock footage to who knows where, using established footage. Great, fun, wonderful. That takes care of it. And narration, as I've mentioned many times before, if they have to do narration in lieu of actually showing us something, because motion pictures are about showing us stuff, not sitting there and explaining it to us, always means there's no budget. There's no way to recoup whatever is lost. They've spent the money and now are in trouble. So this film has all the standard hallmarks of a disaster film in a tailspin, and that's exactly what we saw. But it was nice seeing Mike Farrell and Casey Kasem in the film. They really uplifted their scenes immensely and helped make my life meaningful, because how else would I know what the top 10 musical hits are of the week? Oh well. Okay. That's all I got to say about this fine film. Back to you, Brenda. KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. Bill, N5BB, tell us what you think about anything else. Go ahead.
Well, thank you, Brenda. This is N5BB. Yeah, I agree with all Tom's comments there. Either the cinematography was completely horrible, or the transfer to video was completely horrible. My guess is both are true. And like I say earlier, I'm pretty sure the last, 12 minutes was added later with no set, and it has to be the most boring thing I've ever seen. The last 12 minutes. And then the voiceover at the end of the Alien Collective or whatever on Venus is the stupidest thing. I mean, this film wasn't filmed in 1952 or something. And you'd think they would, have a little more gumption to produce something a little more meaningful, a little more thought, a little better, slightly better special effects. I mean, I think some kids in elementary school could get better special effects than this. You know, when it's up, it's like the spacecraft is obviously kind of shaking around on wires as it moves, and it doesn't look like a spacecraft. By the way, it's got a little flame kind of blowing around in the back. Doesn't look like any rocket we've ever seen. There's also so many other untied little threads. They see this corpse in the Soviet spacecraft, but it's not obvious. Why was it dead? Did the Venus people kill it? Was it killed by... What happened there? There's no explanation because there's no dialogue or anything, or extremely little dialogue. They just threw that in there, I think. And them trying to communicate between the Soviet spacecraft capsule and the American one, I think the reason that it comes across as just difficulty in them getting on the right channel or doing on it, I think that's because they didn't have any good scenes filmed. So they kind of threw some stuff together and made it seem like they weren't communicating well. It's just because they only had certain stuff in the can and they were trying to edit it to close the film out, This is N5BB. What else? The start of the movie, you had evidently the Chinese, the U.S. secret agents in China, the Chinese U.S. secret agents getting into the compound and filming the doomsday machine. By the way, that wasn't filmed very well either. It was too dark.
Node.
Why?
8, 9.
Probably because there were up very well, or we could tell it was cheap. It just had a bunch of switches on it and some pipes, and you couldn't see much else. I don't know why the Americans figured out it was a doomsday machine, and why did the Chinese build this? Was it their stupidity thinking that it was going to be another nuclear bomb that wasn't going to burst open the Earth? By the way, nothing the humans could have built would have split open the Earth that way. Bad science. Bad. But at least if they could have kind of made it kind of a bad science fiction movie. It was so poorly done that, I don't know. Again, if they'd stuck with something related to the doomsday thing, it would have been a little better, I think. What else? the gratuitous way the characters acted toward each other, the men grabbing the women. At one point, one of them was shaking the woman by the shoulders. Get your act together. I mean, he didn't say those words, but it's kind of that thing. Very bad stereotypical stuff from back there, I tell you. And then what are they doing? They're grabbing the women and forcing a kiss on them to make them submissive. I don't know. Definitely not a feminist movie. Let's put it that way. I did kind of like some of the actors and the characterizations, the basic characterizations. But they had him doing so much stupid dialogue, and the plot was so stupid that it kind of killed it all. As I think Tom said, it could have been a movie, but no. Too many bad things. I wonder what this movie cost. Okay, I think that's it. Bad special effects. Sentai BB.
Thank you, Bill. Wikipedia does not tell us what it cost or what it made. So I suspect they were both dismal figures. NT5TM, Tony, did you have anything else to say? Are you still here? Okay, NV5F, Virginia. Anything you want to talk about? Special effects, music, costumes, the plotless thing. Go ahead.
Okay, well, the music was unrememberable because I can't remember anything about it. Special effects, that was some of the murkiest, worst, darkest, dreariest looking space footage I've ever seen. It was horrible. It looked like everything was shot through dark brown pantyhose or something. It was awful. I did a film when I was in college, and I was shooting practical, you know, it was before digital, and I was shooting on 16 millimeter, and I had to do a special effects shot, and I did a matte painting with something you shine light through to make it look kind of bright, and I, you know, and I was 21, I was in college, and I did a way better job than these people did on this piece of crap. I don't know why the special effects were so terrible. The whole thing looked very cobbled together. Obviously, it was made across a period of several years. I'm wondering when you saw that actress, what stage of making this they were in. You said you saw her in 1970, so I wonder how much of this they had shot of her parts, and you know, it was 6 years before this movie would be released, but it's obviously very dated looking to the previous decade based on what was coming out in the mid-70s, because I was alive by then. So I was actually born during the making of this movie. And what it makes me think of is that book I was talking about a couple weeks ago with a guy who had, you know, been in Hollywood all his life and had written a script that was similar to Twister, and how that was so coincidental that Bill was talking about that right when I was reading about Twister. I thought that was pretty funny. Anyway, this fellow who wrote this book, one of the things he talks about throughout the book up until he gets his internship on 2010, and then even after that, was this film he made, and he was working on it starting in, like, around that time. I think he started that film in the mid-70s. And it was this feature-length film, and he talked about all the trouble he had with actors and budgets and locations and the script, and finally, you know, getting things shot and then changing the script and getting a few more things shot, and then someone saying, hey, take a part of the film and make a short out of it and put it in festivals so you can get some notoriety while you're trying to get the rest of it shot. And he was still hawking this film like into the mid to late 80s. And his career was such a struggle, such a dismal, frustrating, dreary struggle based on all the stuff he wrote in his accounts. And after watching this movie and seeing that it was obviously like pieced together over years and years, I have a quandary as a person who has made films and who would love to make more, but the world is so, now it's so hard to, there's so much quote-unquote content out there that it's even hard to think that anything isn't just schlock, even the things that are blockbusters. It's all, the scripts are terrible, the filming is murky, it's nothing but CG. You know, it's like a high-budget version of this thing, you know, that we just watched. So I question whether I should ever pursue making films, because will anyone want to watch them? But the quandary I have is whether or not I'm a dedicated, creative person who loves film, because this guy, quote-unquote, loved film so much that he got stuck on one film for a couple of decades. And I wonder if there's a point where people just should, you know, they get a little ways into something and it's not working out despite their best efforts. Is it like somehow a travesty or heresy to you know, quit their labor of love and go on to something else and start fresh, or is that just what you do when you're that dedicated to your dream? I don't know. I just and get people to see, and there was some crazy mishap about how he had like the only finished print of the film, and somehow he got it to somebody who knew Steven Spielberg. And Steven Spielberg had it at his house, and he was going to watch it, and that was the fateful period when apparently Steven Spielberg had like a fire at his house, and this guy's film like got burnt up in the fire, and that was like in the 80s, and I don't know. I mean, isn't there a point where you should just hang it up and go, this is just nonsense. I need to move on to something else. That's what they should have done with this movie. They should have been like, once they got to about 1970 and it hadn't turned into anything, I think they should have just let it go, because it was not worth the time and the protracted length of production time, and then the fact that they turned up short and didn't have an ending, and were, you know, just throwing it together in places, and it looked all like inconsistent, and you know, I don't know. There's a point where you just have to cut your losses and you know, take one for the team and move on. So that's my feeling about this whole thing. And you know, and after what I said about the guy John Huckard and the stuff I read about his film that he hung on to and wouldn't let go of for so long, it makes me wonder what other people might think about that. NV5F.
Thank you, Virginia. Next, KB9SOK. Sean, anything you want to talk about?
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Not a lot to add. I mean, everybody's special effects are pretty horrible. You know, I already talked about the ridiculous recliner chairs. Obviously, their budget must have been pretty non-existent, because there was no effort really made with most of the set. You know, once again, it didn't look anything like a rocket on the inside, any kind of spaceship. The music, actually, at the beginning was kind of annoying. Other than that, you know, most of the audio was okay there to the very end until we had the that part of the scene that was added on to the end. The audio wasn't great there. But yeah, just overall, pretty horrible special effects. I don't know that I have a whole lot to add other than that. So, as always, it's always fun hearing everybody, and looking forward to the next one. KB9SOK.
All right, we have W5EBB, David, checking in on Echolink. Can you talk to us on Echolink, Dave? Go ahead if you can.
All right, thank you, Brenda. This is W5EBB, David in Springtown. I watched 5 minutes of this movie, so I think that qualifies me to comment on it. I mainly wanted to see Ruta Lee, and as Brenda said, she was kind of a Fort Worth icon there for many years. She played at Casa Manana quite a bit, and I remember I was probably in high school when we went to see some play or musical, and she definitely has in Fort Worth, and she's still alive. And amazingly, she's only 5'1", but she always often looks taller. But she was known also for being the dice retriever for Alec Trebek in the High Rollers game before he went on to bigger and better things. And so yeah, she and the rest, many of the other characters in this movie, or the actors, Bobby Van, Ruta Lee, Mike Farrell. A few years later, you see these people on the game shows. They were prolific on Match Game and Hollywood Squares and $10,000 Pyramid. So maybe this was a jump-off point to much more auspicious things, the game show circuit. But yeah, I don't know. This movie could have had a little more flair. Maybe they could have used some of the other entertaining and quite a bit different. But anyway, yeah, the opening scene when you see the planets, the artwork of the planets, and then you see different light shading, from the different planets, like there's 5 suns, with flashlights, shining on the planets. You knew you were not in for a good special effect journey with this movie. But yeah, I fast-forwarded through the rest, and probably that was the right thing to do. W5EBB.
Yeah, I'm sure that was. It's good to hear from you, David. You need to come join us more often. We're here every Saturday night. Now, regarding Ruta Lee, she was in a Twilight Zone called A Short Drink from a Certain Fountain. She plays the young wife of a much older man, and he's very concerned about keeping her happy, so he takes some kind of a potion to reverse his aging, and it works great for a while as he gets younger and gets closer to her age, but it doesn't stop, and he ends up being a toddler. So I'm sure that was a wonderful episode. But she's got a huge filmography, did lots of TV and lots of movies. That was a long time ago. Okay, well, I guess we're going to wrap it up. And tell them, what do you have for next week? Anything as good as this? Remember, I won't be here next week, so you'll have to struggle on without me. But I'm sure Tom's going to pick something wonderful. Go ahead, KE5ICX.
Well, thank you, Brenda, and yes, I know you'll be all heartbroken, but we've actually got, from what I understand, is a good movie. I've never seen it before. It's kind of science fiction-y, maybe a little. It's a comedy, maybe Shaun of the Dead from 2004. I hear it's quite a good film. I'm looking forward to it. produced by the same guy who played Scotty in the rebooted movies. So, what is his name? I can't remember. It's so late right now. Anyway, that guy. Okay, that's it. That's all I had. Back to you, KE5ICX.
Yeah, I've never seen that. I've always wanted to. I may have to watch it anyway if I can find time. One more Root of Lee story. Her grandmother was being held in an internment camp in Siberia, so she called Nikita Khrushchev asking him to pardon her grandmother, and he did. And grandmother came over here and lived with her. So I guess she was famous in Russia too. All right. Well, I guess that's all we've got. It's 11:59, right under the wire. So thanks for everybody who joined in. This is actually a lot of fun. So I'm gonna call the net at 11:59. This is WV50ZL Clear.
Well, thank you, Brenda. I appreciate your staying up and being that control. And Shaun of the Dead is, Erin will be very inspirational. She really wants to buy a cricket bat now. NT5TM.
Good morning. The time is 12 a.m. All right. Well, good night.